Welcome to the Fourth Down Focus, episode 5. Kian's not here this week because he's boring and he's missed out, but at least he can't mock me for the Raiders beating the Browns. We'll get into that in a minute. We've got James to my left
Oh, yeah.
and Caden down there.
Hello.
So without any further ado, we'll get straight into the games from week 4, should I say. The Browns are terrible. I hate them very much. They obviously got beat by the Raiders. Kian's not here to laugh about that though. James, did you watch it?
I saw bits of it, yeah. It just seemed like it wasn't the best game, let's be honest. It was two dormant offenses against two all right defenses. So it's sort of, well, I was surprised the Raiders still won without Crosby and Davante, which was interesting. But
Don't make it worse.
considering when that news happened, I think I was quite happy with my Browns prediction, but then they got destroyed. But
Yeah,
it's interesting with you because your defense on paper is last year, you had
last year it was like the top defense, and we're still doing the same things that we were doing last year, but it's like we've been exposed and everyone knows how to play against it now. I don't know what's gone wrong, but it's annoying. I mean, we looked better than we have done. It's probably Deshaun's best game since that Ravens game where he got injured last season, but he's still just not great. The offensive line is like 5 turnstiles. You can just run straight through them. So I don't know. Caden, you watched it with me, obviously. Thoughts?
Yeah, unfortunately, I had to watch the full thing because I was with Matt and Kian, and I've never been more bored watching a game in my life. But you lost, and that's all that matters to me.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah. As another losing team before, King can gloat about his first win, albeit it was over the Panthers, so does it really count? We lost 15-20 to the Cowboys. I don't know how many of you, if any of you, watched it. Obviously, we were on a Thursday night game.
We were all together for that game and we were not watching it.
Yeah, fair enough.
We were out.
To be honest, I don't think we were. Oh yeah, of course, yeah, we were all out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, I've seen on the highlights and stuff. I don't think we were bad. I mean, only using by 5 points to a Cowboys team, albeit having had the best start. They're still a very good team. It's not against no touchdowns. It's concerning. But again, when you're playing what is supposed to be one of the best defenses in the league, albeit they haven't showed it much this year, it's never going to be easy. I think in a divisional game as well, we haven't beat the Cowboys for 11 or so years, whatever we said it was last week.
Yeah.
That still continues. I mean, we've got another chance later in the year, but I think it's the decision what to do with our season. We're 1-3. At what point do we just say we've had enough, let's just tank the rest of the year, or do we still try and win games? And also, as no one wants to see their team lose, but if it's going to benefit you in the long term, then I don't know what you guys think about that one. But
is it a bit early to be talking about tanking 4 weeks in?
With us, with Daniel Jones at quarterback? No.
I mean, it looks like we're tanking already, but just not even on purpose. We're just that bad.
Yeah.
We're just terrible. I think if you could make a couple of trades, maybe get another big receiver in, because obviously outside of Malik Neighbours, Daniel Jones is thrown to ghosts. So maybe get another receiver in or a tight end and might have something going. You've got the Seahawks next, which we'll get onto later, but that's another tough fixture. I don't know. The season might be over already.
This is what I mean. It might be early in that sense, but I think as well we might lose receivers at some point because apparently KC are interested in a few of like Slayton and people like that, which I understand.
Why?
At this current moment, though, with their injuries, he probably is wide receiver 1.
Fair enough. I mean,
great, and then get him on the cheap, and he can catch the ball. If you got Mahomes throwing to him, he'd probably look all right.
That's true.
So I think I wouldn't be surprised if we lose another receiver, which could be. I think that would be the sign that we're not trying this year. We're just going to sack it off and get a decent draft pick. I mean, Kane, any thoughts on what? Do you think we should be tanking yet, or do you think it's too early?
I think it is a bit early, but it's probably going to end up happening. If you don't get a win in your next 3, I can't see you getting more than 2 wins for the rest of the season.
That's rough.
No, he's not wrong, to be fair.
No, he's not. I've seen you play.
I struggle to see where our next win comes from. I said that. I mean, if we didn't beat UMax, I'd dread to think, to be honest, we probably would be like 0-9 going into Carolina in Germany.
Beating isn't even that much of a task.
Yeah. But we'll give Kane his moment now. He can go on and gloat about it. But the Bengals finally get their first win of the season.
Can I leave and come back while he talks about this?
We are back. The playoff charge has started, but we're going to the Super Bowl.
One win against the Panthers.
Yeah,
He's got
but
you this confident.
I mean, you can say, "Oh, it's just the Panthers," but we did actually look really good. We conceded a lot of points to the Panthers, which isn't great. But the offense is just finally doing its thing and winning the games. I think Amarius Mims, he's really made a big difference. Our first round pick, he's just made the difference for Burrow because he could never get the passes away as well as he is now. He's just always got the opportunity for a pass, and some of the plays he was making, it was just unreal. And I think we've got a few tough fixtures when we've got Ravens next, but win that or not, that's going to be another hard one. So it's good that we've won. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but with the fixtures we've got, we could end up having a good season.
I mean,
Fair
you've
enough.
got us after the Ravens, so you should get another one there.
That's a bye week.
Yeah, pretty much. I think with you, it's going to be interesting because obviously you said you got hard fixtures, not the best division, and starting 0-3 to then mount a playoff charge means you've got to be not perfect for the rest of the season, but more or less. You can't lose many more games if you want to get in that playoff. But I think you're looking at 9 wins really at least.
We're
To do
finishing 11-6.
11-6.
11-6.
What, losing 3 games for the rest of the season?
2 of them are to the Browns.
No chance.
I mean, Max, even any thoughts on their sort of start now, and do you think they can push on, or do you think they're going to struggle?
It's a tough division, obviously. I mean, they'll finish above us because we're terrible. But obviously the Ravens, who we'll get onto, I'm sure, and the Steelers, who have had a good start, obviously with the first loss this week, just gone. But yeah, I don't know about a playoff push, but they did look better, obviously, against the struggling Panthers side. But there's signs of improvement at least, so it's something to look forward to if you're a Bengals fan, which annoys me.
Yeah, no. I mean, if we look at some other games away from our sort of depression league in our own little mini league here, one of the big upsets for me was the Broncos beating the Jets 10-9. I believe it was at MetLife as well.
It was at MetLife, and it was pissing it down. The rain was heavy.
Awful weather, but 10-9 win for the Broncos. I don't think any of us predicted that.
No.
For me, it's a big. I think it's a big upset. You've got the Jets obviously coming to London this week, which we'll talk about later. But it's a big loss in a team that we thought would probably cruise this game by quite a big margin. The Broncos haven't been impressive, really. But to be fair, as you said, the defense limited them to 9 points, albeit they only scored 10 themselves. You got Pat Surtain, obviously one of the best in his position in the league. Max, you got any thoughts on that game?
I was watching Red Zone for the 6 p.m. game, so I wasn't intensely watching it, but it looked dull. It looked really dull. Obviously, only 1 touchdown in the game, I think it was, and 3 field goals for the Jets. Did you see what Aaron Rodgers said after the game?
I did not.
He basically just come out and said that they were terrible. It was quite funny, but at least he's self-aware. Yeah, obviously the rain probably played a factor, but against a team like the Broncos, you'd expect Aaron Rodgers and co to get a big win. I think they could definitely utilize Breece Hall more. They've not really been getting the running game going as well as I think they could, so that might help them. But yeah, it's looking bad for the Jets at the minute.
Ken?
Yeah, well, I watched Red Zone with Max, and as he said, it was just a very, very boring game. I just don't think that either team looked like they were going to win at any point.
I think Bo Nix are like 65 passing yards all game, and he got the win.
It's an upset, but it's not one to be too proud of because it's not like they've done anything special. They just got a bit lucky, and actually with the rain, like the ball just wasn't traveling very well. That's why the quarterbacks didn't really impress. I think it's a big win for the Broncos, really. I think Bo Nix didn't have the best game, but he's still a good quarterback. But just not much to write home about the game in general. It's more just the actual result.
Yeah, I mean, another game. Whether it's an upset or not, debatable. But the Titans absolutely destroying the Dolphins in Miami, I believe it was as well. I think that's the Titans' first win this season. Kane, you think that's probably the Dolphins' season over after that? If you think about it, I know it's early, as you said, but we know Tua could be the end for their season. Hopes for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think the Dolphins' season ended when Tua had his problems. I think there's no way forward for them without Tua. I thought they might have a shot with Tyreek Hill, but it was down to who's going to be thrown to him. And we've seen 2 quarterbacks that have thrown to him have not done a very good job of it. So I don't think the Dolphins are going to do much for the rest of the season unless something spectacular happens. They should probably look into the free agent market, if anything.
Max?
Do we know when Tua's back? I
No.
don't imagine it'll be too long, surely, if it's
I think
just
it
concussion
depends on the
protocol.
severity of it, I suppose, because it can be a while. He's on IR, I think, so it's at least 4. But I think he's missed 2 or 3 already.
It's been 2 weeks without him now, I think.
So he's got at least another 2 weeks before anything, but obviously he's had a while with the other ones.
Tough. I think Tua coming back will be a boost for them. But I was talking to a Dolphins friend of mine earlier, and I said, even when Tua comes back, I don't believe in the Dolphins' hype that much. I don't think they were that good last season. They didn't get any big wins, really, apart from I think they beat the Cowboys, which is fair enough. I think they're a bit overhyped, and I don't think Mike McDaniels is that good of a coach. So, yeah, I think their season's over. And in a division where you've got the Buffalo Bills and the Jets who could pick up form, I think it's looking bad for them.
Yeah, no, I think, as you said, without Tua, I don't really see any way into the playoffs with them. I said I thought they'd be okay. When you've got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle to throw the ball to, you think as long as you've got a semi-decent quarterback, it should be all right.
Ty Huntley is not that, apparently.
I don't really think there's anyone they can trade for that'd be worthwhile trading for to help them through however long they're out, like 2 or 4. But it's an interesting one because they're probably going to finish the season with a decent record, but not good enough to get into the playoffs, which makes you think it's probably just going to be a bad season overall because they're not going to be low enough to be able to draft anyone very good, but they're not going to be high enough to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's one of them teams that's just sort of wasted a year, I think. But I think the Ravens beating the Bills was probably another. Weirdly to say, probably was a big upset. I mean, the Bills have looked unbelievable with Josh Allen the first few games, and the Ravens have looked pretty poor. But they, at home against the Bills, absolutely took them apart. Derrick Henry, I think the highlight from that game, I can't remember the exact stat line, but I think it was absolutely ridiculous. He had that massive touchdown run as well. I think Max, Ravens looking more like the Ravens we expected to see at the start of the season in this one.
Yeah, that's why I predicted them to win, to be honest. I thought they'd be back to full form. Obviously, Derrick Henry, 30 years old, he looks bigger and faster than ever. I think he was the second fastest player of the week, just behind Xavier Worthy. I mean, how fast he is. Obviously, we saw his 40-yard dash. The Ravens look scary, and it's annoying that they're in our division because I don't see a way past them, to be honest. And we've got them in 2 weeks, I think, maybe 3. So that's a scary one to look forward to. But yeah, they shut down the Bills. James Cook, I don't think he went for more than like 50 yards, maybe 60. Josh Allen looked limited, obviously, so a few signs of being Josh Allen. But yeah, it looked tough. Looked tough out there for the Bills.
Kane?
Yeah, well, I thought the Bills were going to win, and I'm a bit shocked as to how good the Ravens were against the Bills. And it's scary because they're in our division and we're playing them next week. But I think probably don't look too deep into it because it's a big game, and at the end of the day, one of them had to win. I just didn't think the scoreline would be as drastic as it was. I think Josh Allen got a bit hard done by. Still probably MVP for me this season from what I've seen. Don't know if you agree with me on that.
Yeah, I think I probably still agree. As much as it was a tough game for him, you can't really just disregard the first 3 games or whatever from one bad game. He's still definitely the leading candidate. But this one probably we'll move on from the games. First major bit of news. I think Keelan would have a lot to say if he was here, but Davante Adams has reportedly, I don't know if it was officially requested a trade or said he would be preferred to be traded, but basically the story is Davante Adams wants out of Las Vegas. Now, main question I've got for you two is, where do we think he's going to go? So I'll start with you, Cade. And where do you think Davante Adams will land outside of Vegas?
I think it's a very hard thing to sort of have a guess on because a lot of teams need a player like that, but can a lot of them afford to give up what they'd be giving to the Raiders for a trade? I think Max has got the best one from what we were saying the other day when it got sort of rumoured, but I can't really put a team in my head who I think he'd go into.
Max?
I'm very scared that he's going to end up at the Chiefs because they obviously need a wide receiver like that. Obviously, they've lost Rashee Rice probably for the season. I think it looks like it was his ACL that Mahomes injured. Obviously, they've got Hollywood Brown out at the minute as well. So Davante Adams on that team is petrifying for the rest of the AFC. But yeah, I mean, there's rumours of the Jets, obviously the A-Rod links. I think I've also seen the Saints be rumoured, which would be put them back on form. But yeah, I'm not really sure where it goes. Obviously, like Ken said, you'd have to give up a lot to get a player like Davante Adams, even though he's had a slow start to this season. He's still Davante Adams.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, £140 million contract he signed?
That was the contract he signed, yeah.
Yeah, he signed with. So he's still got a while left on that, but obviously, chances are he's not going to be there in a few weeks' time. It's hard, as I said, James, it's hard to predict because obviously a team could pop out of nowhere and say, "We'll give you this amount of money for you," and he'll be gone. As you said, I think financially is the problem. He's one of the highest paid receivers in the league. There's not many teams who have the money to be able to go and throw that in as well.
Plus draft capital as well. Exactly, going to have to give up.
They said they wanted a second-round pick plus extra compensation for him, which is fair. I don't know who can really argue demanding that for him. He's one of the best receivers in the league when he's on his form. You know, he's led that Raiders offense for years now. I think the Jets would be a great landing spot for him, obviously, back with Aaron Rodgers. I think that would be a dangerous combination. With that receiving core already being pretty good, that would probably make them contenders, to be honest, if they got Davante. The Chiefs would be scary, I think, not just for the AFC, but the rest of the NFL in general. Yeah. I don't see who stops them if they end up with Davante Adams. Adams and Worthy alone is a...
I don't see who stops them now. How are they still 4-0?
Especially 4-0 with no...
They're not even playing good and they're still unbeaten.
I think, yeah, it'd be interesting to see without Rashee Rice what happens now, because I can't imagine they don't trade for a receiver. They've got to get someone in because I don't know who even is behind Worthy.
It's Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster. That's all they've got. And obviously Kelsey looks slightly back in form after that Chargers game, but obviously he had a slow start. He might go back to that kind of form. Who knows?
Yeah, but Juju Smith, who was released by the Patriots, is probably not who you want as your wide receiver too.
Yeah, exactly.
I can imagine. I just don't see who they... I mean, I think it'll be someone, whether there'll be someone as massive as Davante Adams, I doubt it, but with the Chiefs, it seems anything is possible, and the NFL probably let them get away with all the financial breaks if they do it. So, but I mean, we'll move on to Jared Goff. Now, not many expected this, but 18 for 18, 100% pass completion rate in their game, and a receiving touchdown, the first in his career, thrown by Amon-Ra St. Brown. Max, I mean, perfection from Goff, and it's pretty insane, really, isn't it?
I wish I supported the Detroit Lions, to be honest. It just looks fun being a Lions fan right now. Obviously, you've got Jared Goff going 100%. I think he'd have got a perfect passer rating if he didn't get taken out for a safety, I think it was. But obviously, nearly 300 yards, 18 for 18, 2 passing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown is ridiculous. I don't know how he pulled that off. And just that Lions team in general, obviously, you've got Laporta, you've got Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameer Gibbs and Montgomery look dangerous. And then the defense is solid too, and they were injured the other day as well. So I don't know how they pulled that off, but some team, the Detroit Lions are.
Probably one of the best quarterback performances we've seen in a while, Caden.
Yeah, I think it's one of them games that in a few years you'll look back and you'll think, wow, that was crazy. I can't believe he did that. Like 100% completion rate is ridiculous in itself, but getting a receiving touchdown as well, it's just outrageous.
It is crazy, isn't it? I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone expected him to have the first perfect, I don't know if it's the first ever or first in a long, long time, but we definitely haven't seen 100% passing accuracy, at least from someone who's thrown more than like 5 passes in a game in a long time. And I think it's that Lions offense, you can see why everyone has them down as contenders, albeit they might have had a bit of a shaky start to the year, but you know, that offense is ridiculously talented. They've got great receivers. They've got probably the best running back duo in the league. I don't really think anyone can dispute that. And it's a very good O-line, probably I'd argue one of the best in the league. And then a solid defense where, you know, people like Aiden Hutchinson, who's just ridiculously talented. I don't really see a weak link in that Lions team at all. I don't know where you can point it, because definitely not a head coach, because Dan Campbell's absolutely fantastic.
He's brilliant. I love him. He's so funny as well.
Yeah,
He's got balls as well. Just like fourth down, 4th and 11, he'll still chuck the ball, man. He'll still go for it.
As a podcast linked with fourth down, I think we've got to show our respects to Dan Campbell, probably the king of it with the Lions.
Agreed.
I mean, move on though. Probably one thing none of us would ever have predicted, ever in a million years. The Minnesota Vikings are perfect to start the season, and they will come to London next week, 4-0. Caden, I mean, with Sam Darnold at quarterback, I think we probably thought it'd be more likely they'd be 0-4 rather than 4-0.
Yeah, I think we all wrote Sam Darnold off at the start of the season. We just thought it was going to be a miss. And he's genuinely been one of the best players to watch. It's just, it doesn't sit right with me that they're 4-0. Like you said, it should be the other way around. The fact that they're pushing for the playoffs this early is like just commendable, really, isn't it?
It's fantastic. I mean, it's nice to see probably a quarterback doing amazingly well who maybe everyone thought really didn't have a career in the NFL any longer. Would he even be starting right now if JJ McCarthy didn't have the season-ending injury? Probably not. I mean, Max, it's more like a Cinderella story, really. I mean, granted, they've got talent all over the pitch, but, 4-0 with Sam Darnold at quarterback is very impressive.
Yeah, like you said, no one predicted it really, especially with Sam Darnold. But he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now. Apparently, I don't know who saw that coming. Obviously, they were doing fine last week, and then they brought back Jordan Addison, who's an incredible young receiver, his second year, I believe. So they look dangerous, and obviously we've got a bit of an announcement to do with the Vikings and the Jets game next week. If you want to announce that, James.
Yeah, so obviously with the Vikings playing the Jets in Tottenham, the first London game of this circuit this year, we can announce that Fourth Down Focus will be present at the training camps on Friday. So me and Caden will be attending the Minnesota Vikings training camp in Watford on Friday afternoon, and Kian will be attending the Jets, which is, I believe, in Tunbridge, so the other side in Hertfordshire. Obviously a massive opportunity for us. Straight in to see probably a lot of people won't get to see in a long time, to get up close and personal with these people. And I think for me and you, Caden, it'll be a very interesting one to be with the Vikings and see how it all sort of runs behind the scenes with a team that looks so well-spirited and well-connected. I think it'd be interesting for us to see what it's like behind the scenes.
Yeah, I think it's just a great thing to get an insight on. And it's a great opportunity for us, but also the people who want to watch, because they get to see things that they wouldn't usually see. We get to give some good coverage on one of the most exciting teams in the NFL at the moment. I think that's just huge.
As you said, we're going to be able to create content for you guys, probably up on our TikTok, and obviously we'll mention it on the podcast as well. But we're going to be behind the scenes. I believe we have opportunities to speak with the players. We'll be present at the press conference for Kevin O'Connell, as well as at least Sam Darnold. I'm not too sure. We haven't confirmed yet who the other players are going to be, but still very exciting times for us. I mean, Max, unfortunately, you're unable to go with Kian to the Jets, but
I'm unable to go, but I think I'm going to the Bears Jags the next week, so that should be fun. Obviously, Caleb Williams, be interesting to see what he has to say if we get to hear anything about that, and see how they get going in training camp.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big opportunity for us. I think, this is something where not a lot of people get to see, and the fact we get to not only have it for ourselves, as Caden said, but to give you guys some content that you probably won't see anywhere else it's very exciting. I think it'll be a massive thing for us, and just the start. Hopefully, the first game we got. Then obviously you said you got the Bears coming the week after, and then you have the infamous Wembley game the week after that, where the Jags come back again, as obviously everyone knows, because they're always in Wembley without fail. And I don't think that's going to change much. Probably no one wants to watch Trevor Lawrence versus Jacoby Brissett in Wembley, but people will pay a stupid amount of money to do so, I guess. But yeah, I think huge for us. But moving on to our game week 5 predictions. Now, I believe, Max, you say you did quite well last week.
I went 11-5 last week, which I'm quite proud of. I think I've done well. I'm assuming I've done the best out of us all. I don't know what Kian got or what Caden got, but I think I've done quite well there.
I mean, I predicted the Chargers to beat the Chiefs, so I can't imagine.
They did for a bit.
Yeah,
they were winning. I
thought I was an absolute genius for about 10 minutes.
But I think I shifted the lotto numbers, didn't I?
Yeah, you did. To be fair, though, probably closer than we all anticipated with that Chiefs game. I think, it's a weird one because they're 4-0, but there's a few games in there. Should they have won based on certain calls made by ref? I don't think the Falcons game, they should have won that. For
Definitely
one
not.
example. I don't know
Probably
if
shouldn't have won the Bengals game either if I'm taking my biased hat off. They probably shouldn't have beat the Bengals.
It
So,
were
like,
better.
they're a 4-0 team, but I mean, my question to you guys is really, are they a 4-0 team?
They're not playing like it.
It's for Chiefs, isn't it? They're always going to be getting these wins when they probably shouldn't be. I feel like it's just the same story every game now. They look like they're going to crumble a little bit and they look like they might take a bit of a shock defeat, and then they always end up turning it around and winning by a few points.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's probably why they win so many championships in the minute. It's because they win the games that other teams won't. They're the close games where other teams might fold over and crumble. They hold it out and just graft out for a win. It's hard to see a world where they don't win again this year, even without any good receivers, because you've got Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. And I think,
and that defense is scary too. That is carried them through last season. It's probably going to do the same this year as well.
That's what I mean. If you've got a defense of that caliber and then a quarterback he's the best in the NFL. Like, as much as he's maybe not shown it this season, he is the best quarterback in the NFL. And does he need top tier receivers? Probably not. Like, he's good enough to make plays with players who aren't the best. As much as I really like Xavier Worthy, he's making him look like one of the best rookie receivers in the league, and he's definitely not. I think he probably wouldn't shine as much as he is if he was in any other offense. But it's an interesting one to think about with the Chiefs. Obviously, we don't know that anyone bar Chiefs fans actually wants them to win the Super Bowl again because we want something different. But unfortunately, it looks like we might have to at least watch them in the Super Bowl again this year.
I can't go for a three-peat. I hate them so much.
We'll move on before Max goes into absolute head loss about the Chiefs.
I'm already there.
So start our Game Week 5 predictions. So first of all, we have our primetime Thursday night game. We have the Atlanta Falcons taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Max, do you want to start us off for that one?
It's actually quite a good Thursday night game for once. I'm actually excited for this one. Obviously, the Falcons are in good form, and the Bucs just beat the Eagles, which was a big win for them. Baker Mayfield looks back to his old form. I'm not going to get bet against Baker this week, and I'm going to back the Bucs.
Game?
Yeah, I feel like I'm going to go for the Bucs as well. I think I'm just enjoying Baker Mayfield playing well. Don't know if it's going to last much longer, but it'd be nice to see him get another win on prime time.
Do you know what? I'm going to have to agree with you. As much as I don't want to bet against the Falcons because, as you said, they probably could have beaten the Chiefs and would be a completely different story for their season if they had done. But Baker Mayfield looked great against the Eagles, and bar that one game where he was pretty poor, he has looked great all year. And as much as Kirk is a solid quarterback in the NFL, I just don't think he's going to be able to match up with Baker on his current form. So I think the Bucs get another win, and at that point, definitely playoff contenders. I think so far, as I said, it might be a difficult one to call as early as now, but it's interesting to see. Next game, the big one, our first London game of the year. We have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the New York Jets. Now, this is a very interesting one to predict, I think, and it's probably one of the best London games we've had in a fair, decent time, I think. Caden, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, like you said, in comparison to some of the London games that have happened over the last few years at least, this is definitely a really good one. I think it's just come at a right time because we've got the Vikings 4-0, and then obviously you've got Aaron Rodgers, who's just one of the best players in modern time. I think it's going to be a fun game, and because it's in London, you can't really predict, or the home side might have more of an advantage because it's a neutral ground. So it's just down to whether the players can do it themselves. And I think it's going to be the 5-0 Vikings.
Wow. Max?
Yeah, like Caden said, obviously it's in London, so neutral ground, but get the big Vikings intimidating crowd they normally get. But I still think they just look too good right now. And I still don't see them slowing down against a team who just lost to Bo Nix and the Broncos. I don't know. It's Vikings for me. Vikings for me.
Yeah, adding more to the madness, as much as it is ridiculous to say, I think the Vikings will be 5-0 coming out of London. The Jets said losing to the Broncos. They're still a very good team. I don't doubt they're going to be competitive this year, but I just don't see how anyone stops this Vikings team at the minute. As much as I said, it's absolutely mental to say that Sam Darnold-led offense is probably one of the most exciting to watch in the entire NFL. With Justin Jefferson, it's I wouldn't say anything's impossible, and I think it would probably be deserved. I think they've been the best team in the NFL by a country mile so far. I don't really think it's debatable. And
after that prediction, very sorry, Vikings, for your first loss of the season.
Yeah, we've gone 3 for 3 there. So the Bucks and the Vikings fans were very sorry. You're going to end up losing them ones.
It's a good game next. Good game next, though. Tough one to predict.
We'll let Caden start off. The Cincinnati Bengals versus the Baltimore Ravens. It's in Cincinnati, I believe. What do you think, Caden? You're going to win this one as well?
It's a good game. I think it'll be a great game to watch. Two great quarterbacks going at each other in a divisional game. I can't see us winning it, though. I think it'll be a close game, but I think the Ravens' defense is just too good. I think they'll just have something to say about Burrow being in good form, and I think we'll get another loss. But it's not a disheartening loss because it's a game that everyone thinks we're going to lose.
Max?
Yeah, that Ravens team is scary, man. The offense is firing on all cylinders. The defense looks menacing. Obviously, you got Marlon Humphrey playing back up to his old standards. Kyle Hamilton's one of the best defensive players in the league. Roquan Smith. It looks scary to be a Bengals fan this week. I think it's Ravens for me.
I hate to make it 3 for 3 out of our first three predictions, but I'm going to have to agree. It's tough because obviously the Bengals aren't a bad team. I don't think it's really a reflective record for how good they actually are. Obviously, the defense has struggled, but it is a very, very good offense. But you've got to be defensively solid against teams, the Ravens, because they will be, and they will limit your points. And when you can't limit them back, I feel like there's only one way this game's going to end, and it's going to be, I think, quite a healthy Ravens win. So I think the Bengals will put the points up to be able to compete, but they won't be able to hold the Ravens off. And I think the Ravens will have more in them to be able to stop the Bengals to get them over the line for that win. But so Derrick Henry, he's firing now properly. And as I said at the start of the season, I don't know how any team can defend a Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry read option. And it's ridiculous. The talent on that team is undeniable, one of the best in the NFL when they're on it. And I think they'll get a win, and it'll be a statement win to show that they're not having an off year and they are here to compete. This one, it could be very interesting to see. We've got the Bears versus the Panthers. Now, I'll start this one off. I think it's a very tough one. I think give me 3 weeks ago, I'm taking the Bears quite comfortably, not even thinking about it. But a Panthers team who did get their first win and were competitive against a very good Bengals team. They weren't dormant. They played their game, got a decent amount of points. Andy Dalton, he looks comfortable in that offense as you'd expect a 13-year or whatever senior career he is to be, and he is. But I'm going to go out there. I'm going to say the Panthers win this game. I'm still not convinced with Caleb. I think the Bears overall are a poor team. They haven't got much defensively as well. They've just been appalling, I think, in the first few games. And I think Andy Dalton, if he gets him firing as well as they did against Cincinnati, I think they'll win this one. Max, what do you think?
Part of me wants to pick the Panthers. I just kind of like rooting for them now they've got Andy Dalton, and I don't know why, because he's a bit of a Bengals legend, but I don't know. It's fun to root for them, but I think if I'll have to be the voice of reason, the Bears should really be winning this game. So I'm going to pick Chicago.
Ken?
I'm with Max on this one. As much as I want the Panthers to win, just because it'd be quite funny, I just can't see it happening this time. I think Caleb looked a lot better in the last game. I've said this a few times now. He is just gradually improving, obviously getting a decent result, and I think they'll carry on a bit and beat the Panthers.
First time we've not agreed, so that one might actually come true. We've got the Patriots versus the Dolphins next.
That's a stinker, man.
Could be one of the worst games we see this season. Caden, what do you think about this one?
I think it's another hard one to predict because the Dolphins should win it, but we've said that about a few of the games the Dolphins have played this season, and they just can't seem to do it. And I think they will win this one, but I don't think it'll be very convincing. I think it'll be a very evenly matched game. It'll either be they win by 3 points and there's 9 points scored all game, or it'll be like they both finish in the 40s.
Max?
I've got a bone to pick with the Patriots, right? Why are they not playing Drake May? Why are they just sitting behind Jacoby Brissett week after week? Just start Drake May. You shit anyway. What's the worst that could happen? Just throw Drake May in. I think if they throw Drake May in against the Dolphins, they'll win. So I'm gonna. I don't think they will do that, but I'm gonna back the Patriots anyway because the Dolphins just look terrible. Ty Huntley is woeful. I don't know how that man ever made it to the Pro Bowl. So give me the Patriots. Gerard Mailer, he's a good coach. I rate it.
I don't want to make the same mistake I have in the last probably 2 weeks and say the Dolphins will still win because they've got Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, but I'm going to make the same mistake again. I think they will win this, but I'm not, as you said, I'm not convinced they'll be by much if they do. I don't think the Patriots necessarily, they're not tragic, but as you said, with Brissett, I just don't see the vision with it at all. Like, you get with other teams, obviously you've seen the success of Jordan Love and how it came from sitting him, but at the same time,
but you sat behind Aaron Rodgers.
This is exactly what I mean. If you're going to sit, I feel like it's got to be behind someone who can keep you competitive, and Jacoby Brissett is definitely not someone who can do that.
I don't understand it. You see the success of someone like Jaden Daniels, who's just been thrown straight in, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL so far this season. Just put Drake May in the game, man. Third pick of the draft, and he's sat behind Jacoby Brissett. It don't make any sense.
This is what I was going to say. Jaden Daniels has been electric, and it makes you think he was the third quarterback taken. I think a lot of teams had him maybe even the second best in that class. So I know a few teams obviously said that, but there's got to be something there for them to take him third overall. And you think with how bad Brissett has been, at what point do you just say, we'll give you a chance? But I'm going to go with the Dolphins.
Just do it.
I don't see what harm it would do to play him as much as, he could end up injured, but at the same time,
I've seen Patriots fans saying that they don't want him in behind the struggling offensive line, but like, what do you think CJ Stroud and like Anthony Richardson did? Like, they went in behind not the best offensive lines in the world, and look at CJ Stroud. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, but I'm going to take the Dolphins. I'm not convinced with either of them, to be honest. It's going to be a terrible game to watch, I think, but. Well, it'll either be absolutely awful, as Caden said, and have basically no points scored, or it's going to be one of the most enjoyable games to watch all season because they'll just start throwing bombs everywhere and there'll be 40 points each. But I'll go with the Dolphins. Next up, it doesn't really get much better. We have the Jags versus the Colts. However, for Max, I think this is probably an exciting one because Anthony Richardson is believed to be out for probably the most of the season now. So Joe Flacco is going to be the Colts quarterback going forward. What do you think about this one, Max?
I love Joe Flacco very much. Obviously, with his time at Cleveland last year, even though he did win a Super Bowl with the Ravens, puts a bit of a dampener on it, but he was incredible for us. I love watching him. I stood up and applauded when he walked onto the field for the Colts. I found it weird that they put Flacco in for a drive. He handed off the ball, and then they put Anthony Richardson back in after he'd come off an injury, and he designed a QB run for him, and he went off injured again. That's a weird move from Shane Steichen and the offensive coordinator. But yeah, I hope Anthony Richardson's okay because I do enjoy watching him. I heard a weird stat about him actually. I think he's had 8 career starts, won 4, and he's gone off injured in 3 of the wins, which is a weird stat. But yeah, I think Joe Flacco will destroy the Jags. The Jags didn't look bad against a good Texans team. They actually nearly won that one. They had me questioning everything for a second. But yeah, I think Joe Flacco, I just love him too much to bet against him. So give me the Colts.
Caden?
Joe Flacco is a prick. I'm just going to get that. Because he gave you he gave you an enjoyable end of your season, and you don't deserve that. But he is a good quarterback. As you said, he won a Super Bowl with the Ravens, and we spent a bit of time in Cleveland as well, and now he's at the Colts, and I think he'll get them a win. To be honest, I think it's a poor game. Can't imagine many people will be tuning into that one specifically. I don't think it'll come up much on Red Zone either. But for what it's worth, I'll give.
It'll come up a lot because Joe Flacco's going to be dropping dimes. That's why it'll come up.
No, he's going to throw 4 interceptions, but we'll still get a win.
I'm going to take the Colts as well. I just can't bet on the Jags at this point, to be honest. They're just terrible. Trevor Lawrence has been nothing short of appalling. I can't imagine there's many worse quarterbacks than him this season in general. And
Deshaun Watson.
I think it's close, to be honest. At least Deshaun's won a game.
That's true. That's true. Against Trevor Lawrence.
Exactly. So I think Trevor Lawrence is probably the worst quarterback in the league at the minute. I'm going to take the Colts, though. Joe Flacco said he's solid enough option for the Colts to have, but Richardson's an interesting one. I've said it before, but it's, as a lot of people pointed out, he seems to be able to make the throws that 99% can't make, but can't make the throws that everyone can make. He will drop the perfect analogy. 80-yard pass you've ever seen, but then will miss a check down. It's a really weird one, but another injury could be interesting to see what they do with him from now on in, because that'll be, if it is season ending, that's 2 massive injuries in his first 2 years in the NFL, and that's pretty worrying signs for someone you drafted so high. Max can start this one off. The Commanders versus the Browns is the next game up. Thoughts?
Not many good thoughts. I think I'm going to be a bit like this man in my background after the game, calling the Browns Stadium a factory of sadness. I think it's on the road, actually. But yeah, the Commanders are in really good form. Jaden Daniels is electric. We've got Scary Terry making big catches. The defense looks solid. And we looked more promising against the Raiders than we have all season. So maybe we can sneak a win if Jaden Daniels don't bring his A game, but I think he will. And I think they'll beat us by like 20 points. And I'm not looking forward to watching it at all.
Yeah, I mean,
however, I forgot one big point. I don't think he'll be back for this game, but today Nick Chubb is back in practice for the first time in over a year, and I am giddy. I can't wait to see that man back in this team.
You might end the season on 2 wins now.
Exactly. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, Chubb obviously got Chubb and Njoku to come back at some point as well, which will be basically transforms your entire team, because that gives you 2 offensive options you desperately need, in all honesty, because outside of Amari Cooper, who still isn't on his A game, you haven't really got anyone
whatsoever.
Exactly. So I'm going to take the Commanders in this one. As much as I don't want to, I really don't want to ever say the Commanders are going to win a game, but Jaden Daniels has been unbelievable, and the Browns have been terrible. I think you probably
There's
agree
an
with
outside shout that the Commanders could win your division. It's early days, but they could.
I don't think so. I can't see anyone but the Cowboys winning it this year, to be honest. I think now
the Cowboys don't look that good. The Eagles are hit and miss.
I agree. There's definitely a chance, obviously. I think any of them 3 could win it. It's just not going to be us. But the Commanders have looked good, but I don't think in the long run, as I said, they couldn't even put a touchdown up against us, albeit they still won the game, but 7 field goals, that's just us being terrible on defense for half the time. I'm going to go the Commanders. Caden?
Yeah, I'll go for the Commanders as well. Jaden Daniels is really exciting to watch. And I think until the Browns get Nick Chubb back, it's just going to be loss after loss. And when he comes back, they might have a bit of fight in them, having a bit of an option. I think it's just Deshaun Watson. What can I say?
Don't say anything. Don't talk about him. Don't even say anything.
Waste of money in the NFL in the last 10 years.
It's the worst deal in sports history.
An argument with how much was given up, but before Max goes into,
and got nothing in return.
Before Max goes into a complete 20-minute rant about how terrible Deshaun Watson is and how awful that trade was, we'll move on. This game for me could be one of the most exciting matchups of the week. We've got the Texans against the Bills. An underperforming Texans team, maybe, but at the same time, when they're on it, they're on it, and the Bills have been unbelievable bar that loss to the Ravens. Caden, we'll start with you on this one. What do you think?
I'm really looking forward to this game. I think 2 of the most fun quarterbacks to watch in the NFL. I think it's a really good matchup. I think the Bills will win it, but you can't write off the Texans. As much as people think they've not had a great start to the season, they have still got CJ Stroud, and he can single-handedly win games. But I'm still going to take the Bills. Josh Allen, the beast stroker, as we all know him as. I think he's going to have a very good game.
Get one in for Kian.
Yeah.
Stick that one in for Kian. Max?
Give me the Texans.
Oh.
The Bills look good, but obviously they've been embarrassed by the Ravens. I think morale's going to be a bit low. Obviously, if you compare the receiving rooms, you've got two of the best in the NFL being thrown to by Stroud, obviously Diggs and Nico Collins. Tank Dell's not a bad player at all. Cam Akers is filling in for Joe Mixon quite well. Defense needs to step up a little bit, but obviously they've got big playmakers. They've got Aziz Al-Shaair, they've got Derek Stingley, Will Anderson as well. He's a beast. I think the Texans could actually win this one.
I was going to throw in. I think Nico Collins should currently be in top 3 receiver talks, at least for this season. The guy's a joke. He's been absolutely unbelievable for the Texans this year. Very happily for me, he's in my fantasy team. But unfortunately, I'm good. I really don't want to bet against the Texans because I've made that mistake too many times. But I think with Josh Allen, as long as they've not had too much of a downer because of the Ravens game, which I don't know if they will, like as much as it is a heavy loss, it is to one of the best teams in the league when they're on it. So I think that it'll be a very good game to watch. I think this is two unbelievable quarterbacks, both arguably up there in that top 5. Josh Allen definitely, CJ Stroud's on the way there. I think the Bills will win it, but I think it'll be a very close game. I'll start this one off with the 49ers versus the Cardinals. For me, it's an interesting one because the Cardinals haven't looked bad at all. I don't think they're a bad team, but there is weaknesses
they're
in the
just
team.
Not good enough.
Yeah, they're good, but they're not at the level where they need to be a competitive team. And the Niners are looking more like the Niners we expect from them every year now. It's a tough start, but they're now on it a bit more. Purdy's firing. I mean, that Kittle touchdown was absolutely ridiculous through 4-man coverage and still managed to get the ball in the end zone. It's ridiculous. And him in the red zone in general is just a joke. Having Debo and Ayuk not been the best, but if he can find his form again, they're going to be a very good team. I think the 49ers will probably win this one quite comfortably at home as well. I just don't see a world where they don't win at Levi's. Max?
Part of me wants to root for the Cardinals. Obviously, I love Marv Harrison Jr. and I want to back him, but like you said, the 49ers are looking back to old ways, even without McCaffrey, who I think is 1 week away from being told he has no legs, just in general. It just keeps going wrong for him every week. But yeah, I still think they do well. Obviously, Kittle's reliable. Jordan Mason's a great backup. Ayuk's not massively performing, but he's a playmaker. Joanne Jennings looks as a great replacement while Debo's out. I don't know when he's back. He might be back this week. I'm not sure. But yeah, give me the 49ers.
Jen?
Yeah, another sweep for the 49ers. I think every game the 49ers have played, we've all backed them, which
Probably.
I think is quite a safe one. As you touched on, James, I think the Cardinals, they're definitely building something, maybe long term. I think, and as Max said, I think Maserati Marv is putting up some really good numbers, but it's not good enough to be at the level where you think they're going to be pushing for the playoffs. And I think the 49ers will probably blow them out the water a bit, even without McCaffrey. And I'm starting to question whether he actually exists anymore.
Fair play without McCaffrey. Jordan Mason, he's been excellent. I don't think you can really fault him, but I suppose, as someone said before when they traded for CMC, you have a run offense where basically anyone can succeed in. So
imagine them two fit together though.
Yeah, that's going to be scary.
And Jordan Mason, Thunder and Lightning combo is going to be scary.
CFC
I don't know how anyone deals with that.
Yeah, CFC's back for the playoffs, then that's going to be a scary combination for any team to defend.
They might win the Super Bowl. I think I actually had them to win the Super Bowl in my predictions. I can't remember, but it wouldn't surprise me.
It's definitely not a bold prediction. Can't start with Keaton for this one because he's not here. But Keaton, you can start this one off. We've got the Broncos against the Raiders. Another game which is probably going to be a bit terrible, but what do you think?
Yeah, any game that's got the Raiders in it, it's just not going to be a good watch for half of it, and that is the Raiders half when they've got the ball. And I think it's just going to be another very low-scoring game. But I do think the Raiders will get a win. I'm not sure about anyone else.
Broncos. Just to annoy Kian. I'm still salty after last week. I don't think they were that good whatsoever. They just beat a terrible Browns team. And I think Bo Nix has got 2 wins behind him now. He's got momentum. He's got some weapons, obviously Cortland Sutton being the main one. So give me the Broncos. Fuck you, Kian.
It's a tough one. I think it'll be interesting to see if Davante Adams ever plays again for the Raiders, having requested the trade. I can't imagine Pierce going to be too happy with that one. And whether he plays or not, I don't know. I think the result probably largely depends on if he does or not. I don't know what the situation was with Crosby. I don't know if it was a one-game thing with his injury or if that's a long-term issue. But
yeah, I'm not sure.
Again, that is also dependent. But if they're both out, I think the Broncos should win this game. They said Bo Nix got a momentum now. They're looking more like a team that's going to be, probably about the 6 or 7 win mark, so better than probably most expected. But I think they'll win this one. The Raiders, they've just not been great. I said they did get that win. And if you base it on their record, they're just a bang average team at the minute. But I think that's probably generous for how good they actually are. I just think they've had a quite easy run of games even. But I'm going to go with the Broncos to win that one. So we're not going to take the clean sweep there because Kane's going to go out there and take the Raiders. But we'll see.
Just try to impress Kian.
We've got Max. We've got the Rams versus the Packers. Could be an interesting one. This one.
Ooh, that is an interesting game. Got a little reaction out of me there. Obviously, Jordan Love's back now. That got announced just before the game against the Vikings, and he in that fourth quarter, he was non-existent for the first 3 quarters, and the fourth quarter came out like a man possessed. If you can carry some of that momentum into this game, I think the Packers will get a win against the Rams. To be honest, the Rams not a bad team, but just look a bit uninspiring at the minute. Obviously, they've got injuries, which is not helpful. But yeah, give me the Packers for this one.
Caden?
Yeah, I'm taking the Packers as well. I think Jordan Love's just a great quarterback to watch. It's nice for them to have him back. And I think they'll put up quite a few points against the Rams. I think the Rams' season's already peaked against the 49ers. I can't see it getting much better from there. But, I mean, you can't write them off because they are not a bad team. But I think the Packers are just a level above.
Yeah, the Rams are injury-ridden, aren't they? They'd probably be a much better team than they are had they not been. I think they're still performing, probably overperforming, considering the roster they have available to them. I can't really criticise any of their results, even when they've lost, because it's a team that is absolutely ridden with injury. But Jordan Love looked unbelievable in that fourth quarter. Back to the Jordan Love that we saw tail end of last year and even at the start of this year. He looked great. But interesting point to find out that they are 0-2 with Jordan Love and 2-0 with Malik Wills.
That is interesting.
Which is very interesting to say, but I think probably just based on the games they played, I think Love will be back to his best and they'll beat the Rams even. I'll start this one off because it's the depression pit again. It's the Seahawks versus the Giants in Seattle. I'm taking the Seahawks by about 30 points. It'll be an interesting one. I think our defense looked good against the Cowboys, to be honest. As much as we did give up a couple touchdowns, it's not a bad defensive line at all. When it's probably one of the better pass rushers when they're on it. Brian Burns, Kevin Thibodeau, and Dexter Lawrence in there as well. Look, Dex is just unbelievable. I don't know how he's still here, to be honest. I'd be fuming if I was in because the performances he's putting in like Super Bowl winning performances, and he's playing on one of the worst teams in the league and has done for basically his whole career. So I feel really bad for him. But Daniel Jones, I'm just not convinced at all. Still, no touchdowns against the Cowboys. Neighbors can only do so much. He can't do everything, and as proven, when you play a good defense, it's going to struggle. And the Seahawks have been overperforming the whole season. And I think, as much as I think, if we're going to win any game, it might be this one, just purely out of luck of them having a bad game. I'm going to take the Seahawks on this one before I predict us again and then we get embarrassed. So I'm going to take the Seahawks. Caden?
Yeah, I think just a very easy decision to take the Seahawks. I think they've had a very good start to the season, all things considered, and I think they'll continue to win the games, unfortunately for you.
Yeah. Thanks.
It's Seattle, unfortunately, innit? They didn't look bad against one of the best teams in the NFL, I think, the Detroit Lions. Obviously, Jared Goff had that career day. But they still looked good. They were throwing trick plays. They got a young head coach who seems inspiring. Geno Smith's not been playing bad. They've got what I think is the best receiver room in the NFL with DK, JSN, and Tyler Lockett. Don't get much better than that. And a good defense. So yeah, I think you're in trouble, unfortunately, mate.
Yeah, I think with our secondary being nothing short of useless so far, with that receiver room, it could be a destruction.
You're in trouble, man.
Especially with Deontay Banks being nowhere near the level we probably wanted him to be in his second year. He's regressed, which is unfortunate because if he'd taken a step up, he would have been brilliant. But because he's regressed, he's just been pretty average. We'll move on. We've got the Steelers taking on the Cowboys. Again, it's probably
snooze
a
fest.
game. I think this is is this Monday night, I think? Or was that the Chiefs?
Chiefs on Monday night, I think.
Yeah, so still Sunday, just the later game of the few of them. Max, what do you think about this one?
Absolute snooze fest. The Steelers make every game boring. They're like the Burnley of the NFL. They're just boring to watch. As much as I do like Justin Fields, obviously he's an Ohio guy, but it's just, yeah. I don't know, though. It's a tough game to predict because both teams are just a bit stagnant. Like they just neither look inspiring. But I think I'll give it to the Cowboys. They've just got a bit more quality. Obviously, CD Lamb being the big factor there, and probably a better defense. Although obviously the Steelers have TJ Watt. I don't even think he touched Joe Flacco last game. So give me the Cowboys.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of field goals in this game, if we're being honest. That's going to be where 90% of the points come from. And I don't want the Steelers to win because we want to continue our playoff push and they can't keep winning. And unfortunately, I think they will. I think they'll actually score a couple of touchdowns, maybe.
Whoa, steady on.
I know I'm pushing it a little bit. I've said a lot of field goals, a lot of not going for it on fourth down. Just a very, very boring game again.
Which we don't stand for on this podcast.
No, we don't.
Yeah,
I'm going to take the Cowboys, but if you said it's going to be a game of field goals, I think with Brendan Aubrey, they probably win that one.
He's probably the best kicker in the NFL.
I think
Justin Tucker's not been on form.
I definitely agree. Aubrey's been unbelievable. You know, he's automatic from basically anywhere on the field. I think it's even 60
when he lined up to take one from 70 yards out against us, I was like, "Are you taking the piss?" Just laughing at us now.
No, he's ridiculous talented. But the Cowboys, as I said, I watched them. Obviously, they didn't look great against us by all means, but at the same time, they're due a sort of run now. I think where they go on their normal run because they're normally unbelievable in the season and terrible in the playoffs. So scary to think, really, if they're bad in the season, it might mean they're good in the playoffs, which I dread to think because if they want,
I don't know if that's possible.
I really hope not because I really love taking the piss out of Dak for being absolutely terrible in the playoffs, and it's really fun. And long may it continue. But I'm going to take the Cowboys. I think the Steelers have been overperforming from minute one this season, and I think they're finally going to start getting found out now a few games in. To round it off, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously on prime time because the Chiefs, against the New Orleans Saints. I'll start us off on this one to finish it off. I think it's going to be the Chiefs, isn't it? Let's be honest. As much as we don't want to admit it, it's an interesting one. I think it might be different than what we expect because obviously, as you said, Xavier Worthy's now wide receiver 1 on that Chiefs team. You know, you've got Juju Smith, and I have not got a clue who the third one's going to be, to be honest. I couldn't even tell you who's below Juju on the depth chart for the Chiefs. But Rashee Rice out for the season, Hollywood Brown out for the season. It's going to be a tough struggle for them at the minute, but the Saints had their good start. I think that's going to go back to absolute mediocrity now, and I think as much as none of us want it, the Chiefs are going to be 5-0. Caden?
Yeah, I've already seen the script. It's a Chiefs win and they score a touchdown with the last play of the game that they got because they got a really dodgy call on a play and they shouldn't have won, but they did because of the refs.
Max?
Where is this game?
Arrowhead. Yeah.
Kind of hampers my prediction, but I'm going with the Saints anyway. Fuck the Chiefs. The Saints are going back to winning ways like they were at the start of the season. Derek Carr is going to throw some dimes. I think it's going to be another close one, like all the Chiefs games seem to be. But I think it's not going to be for them this time. Give me the Saints. I'm backing it.
So at least I'm not going to be the only one who's made a stupid prediction in the Chiefs game this year.
Yeah, it's me this week.
The last few weeks. So you can take that one in a few days' time when we come back and the Chiefs have won by 40 points. Right, so that's our predictions done for week 5. So I can't wait for us to go 6 out of 16 again. Final question to you all. So obviously, with your teams looking now, you sort of know where you're going to be towards the end of the season. Maybe Caden, you not as much because you could be anywhere. But I think me and Max got a pretty good idea. We're not going to be very high up, so we're going to have some decent draft picks, hopefully, especially for you, considering Max, you haven't had a first round of I don't even know how many years it's been.
Or something.
So you can finally look forward to a first round draft pick. I'll start with Caden then because he's probably a bit unsure. If you could pick one player for your team to draft next year based on their current college form and where you think you're going to be in the draft, who do you want?
I'm not a big college football watcher, so I'm not sure who is performing well at the moment. But as you said, I really don't know what we need to go for anyway. I think the sensible option is to just get someone who's ridiculously good on the defense. But with us probably never seeing T. Higgins again after this season because he's on a franchise tag, I think if we got another receiver of that caliber, I think we could definitely push for something really good next year.
Max?
Yeah, like you said, we've not had a first round pick in a few years now because of that trade that happened. But yeah, I think it's funny because we've lost all these first round picks, and I think now we're getting one back. We're going to use it on a quarterback, which is the irony is quite funny. Obviously, Jalen Milroe looks good. That Bama Georgia game was one for the history books. That was some game. Cam Ward for the Miami Hurricanes. I like the look of him. I mean, Shadur Sanders, maybe. I feel like he's got trouble written all over him though. So yeah, give me a quarterback, please. If not a quarterback, something on offensive line because they're all headless chickens.
That's my line.
It is your line.
Yeah, for me, I'm specifically looking at Jalen Milroe at the minute for our offense. I think he'd be perfect, to be honest. I said there is a temptation with us to sit and wait and draft Arch Manning in 26. Obviously, incredibly talented, and him being a Manning, I don't think we struggle to get him. I think he'd probably want to come to us, be easily convinced. But at the same time, that makes me think, do I really want to sit here for another year and watch Daniel Jones throw the football? No, I absolutely don't. So I think we worked out, I can't remember what his name was, but we worked out a veteran QB the other day, and I forgot what his name was, but interesting to see how that one works out. But I'm going to say Jalen Milroe. As a Cam Ward as well is another one I like. I think he'd be a good fit, but I think Milroe is the perfect fit for us. And I know with Dayball, if he's still here, granted, by the time we get to the draft, which I think he should be, Milroe will be his perfect pick. I doubt he'd want anyone else, to be honest. As you said with Sanders, as much as there's talent, I think there's issues there, which is just not worth taking a risk on. Someone will. There'll be there's so many franchises that need a quarterback. He's talented. If it works, it'll work really well, I think. But there's a high
Probably
chance
just take him for the name value, just because he's Dion's son.
Yeah, it's one of them ones. He's a very talented player, but I don't know if he's worth the risk for what could be a potentially troublesome career. But I'm going to say Jalen Milroe. As you said, that Bama Georgia game was unbelievable, and he really shone in that one. And I think he'd be the perfect quarterback. With him and Neighbors, I think we could really have something finally to look forward to in the season with a new quarterback and a refresh in New York.
That sounds dangerous.
It does, yeah. So that is it for this week. So obviously Friday we'll be at the training camp. So keep an eye on our socials. Our TikTok is Fourth Down Focus, same with our Twitter. So just keep an eye on both of them. Make sure you follow them as well. We've got some new content coming out on TikTok in the last couple of days, and there'll be more coming soon. But especially on Friday, we're going to have hopefully loads of content to bring you guys from the training camp, showing you behind the scenes what you won't get to see of these people, these players, and obviously head coaches, etc. But we'll be back next week to review our no doubt terrible predictions and to go over the first to go over the first London game of the year, and then obviously look forward to the rest of them. But thank you to Max and Caden for joining me. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and check out our other social media pages. Thank you very much. See you guys next time.
Cheers.
Bye.